Well, we at NEWSX over here are bringing you a better perspective as far as the budget is concerned. And today joining us on the panel are three esteemed guests. Clearly, all of them would be giving you a better understanding as far as the budget is concerned. Today joining me, let me start with Mr. Sunil Ashra. He's joining me over here. He is from the MDI. Appreciate you, Mr. Mishra, for joining us. Also next joining us is Mr. Raheja himself. He's the chairman, Mr. Naveen M. Raheja, in fact, the managing director of Raheja Developers. Sir, appreciate you joining us here on NEWSX. And also joining me right over there is Yamini Mishra. She's a programming specialist with UN Women. Thanks very much, Yamini, for joining us. So I would like to start with you, first of all, since you're sitting the closest to me. What is your take on the budget that took place today?
See, overall, I see it's a kind of a medium kind of expectation budget. A lot of expectations were there from the budget because the next year is going to be election year starting. So, but again, that expectation have not materialized. And on the growth front, although the budget is trying to say that the things will be better next year, but I think it will not be so good because your agricultural output is very high this year. Next year, they'll not be so high. And if you look at the latest number, index of industrial production, it's down to 2%. So obviously, that's not going to be suddenly going up so hugely that your next year industrial output growth becomes so high that your overall growth becomes higher. So, and inflation side, again, if agriculture doesn't perform well, next year again, you will have a kind of a, again, possibility of high food prices, and which basically overall will lead to overall higher inflation. Right. So that problem, I think, overall, nothing, not much. I mean, obviously there are things which have been done about these food parks and all, but they are kind of a tinkering at the margin. They are not going to do significant improvement in the productivity part. So overall, I expect the inflation to be still much worse and growth to be slower.
All right. Before I come to the two of you, let's tell our viewers that the budget 2011 has been presented by the Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee, and he has tried to strike a balance between political compulsions and pure economic decisions. While some relief on the tax front has been given to the people at the bottom of the tax net bracket, the budget fails to do much on the common man reeling from the impact of high prices. Government seems to have committed to several reforms, most notably in the financial sector. The tax reforms are also set to kick by 2012. But most of the reforms are still promises, and whether they will become reality is anybody's guess. We will discuss the budget threadbare with our esteemed panel present here for this very purpose. And now let's listen into how the political fraternity has reacted to the general budget.
So I had to consider the fiscal consolidation. Therefore, through this budget, I wanted to convey a strong signal towards reforms. And reforms not in dramatic announcement, but addressing those issues where governance and delivery can improve. Taking full advantage of the technological inputs which are available, for instance, IT platform, which can bring revolutionary changes in the tax compliance, tax administration.
There you heard the Finance Minister himself speaking after he delivered the budget. Let's now listen into the other political leaders and how they have reacted to the entire issue.
In this budget, there is not even a mention of unemployment. That means the Finance Minister doesn't think that it is a problem. They have not told anything about gauging the inflation. They have not said a word about unemployment. Therefore, this is a very, very disappointing budget for a common man.
The budget is exactly according to the personality of the Finance Minister. He is not known for being a reformer in the economic field. And that is why he has presented a budget which is completely devoid of reforms.
We're very, very excited about this budget. I think it's an excellent budget which takes care of all the sections of the society. There is a lot, which has been done to improve the health services, a lot to improve for education. I don't think we've had such an quantum leap in education, such an increase in budget for education.
ये जो बजट जो पेश किया है प्रणब बाबू ने, ये हम बहुत हैप्पी हैं, बहुत खुश हैं। लेकिन ज़्यादा खुश उस दिन होंगे जो डिफरेंट काइंड का जो बिल आने वाला है, बिल ये बिल पास होने के बाद ही बजट का जो एस्टीमेट है, जो उपस्थापन हुआ है, तब ये सामने बात स्पष्ट होगी कि हम अपने गोल तक पहुंचते हैं कि नहीं पहुंचते हैं.
At all, there is nothing new in the budget. There is nothing spectacular to celebrate in the budget. In fact, this budget is in tune with the Congress-led UPA government's determination, commitment to build crony capitalism in the country. The budget fails to address the genuine concerns of the common people, Aam Aadmi.
Futile attempt of a person who has been in public life for long to restore the credibility of the government and refurbish the image of the party. Most important problem the country is facing is unemployment. He has not even mentioned the one unemployment in the whole budget.
There you heard the various political reactions, and now it's to our esteemed guests to find out what really they think as far as the budget session is concerned. Mr. Raheja, coming to you, what do you think of the budget? Now you're from the construction industry, so to say. Do you think there was anything at all for you as far as today's budget is concerned?
As far as I look at from real estate and housing industry perspective, there's virtually nothing in this, and there's nothing which can really give a hand-holding or can help in increasing the sales or can help in to the common man for buying the house. The only thing which they have given is just polishing the thing, you know, that the limit of priority lending has been increased from 20 lakhs cap to 25 lakhs cap. And if we look at all the metropolitan cities and the bigger townships, you know, there is virtually nothing available in that bracket, you know.
Right.
So as such, what is being announced, what has been announced is not really going to make any impact upon the real estate offtake.
Right.
So second thing which I look at it is, you know, that interest subvention of 1% which is given, for which the limit has been raised from 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs. That is also a very marginal gesture, because already during last 1 year the interest rates have gone so much up, you know, that is not really going to make any positive or any stronger to say that any significant impact.
I would like to bring in over here now the real estate sector in itself. Is it really recognized as an industry on the whole? Are there any guidelines for it? Because those were a few expectations that really the real estate market had from Pranab Mukherjee to sort of bring in guidelines as far as this entire industry is concerned.
See, as far as the real estate sector goes, we have been demanding the industry status for the real estate sector since last several years. Every year we are making the same demand, because there are more than 200 industries which have got forward and backward linkages with the real estate.
Right.
So the real estate is actually, unless you give housing to the common people, you cannot expect the very good satisfaction, productivity with satisfaction, you know, index of the people.
Right.
That is required. So your country is made up of the people, and you need to give them a proper shelter and civilized housing.
Considering that real estate really has a lot of people working under its umbrella as well. Right, let me go to Yamini over here. Yamini, now for women, for you and me, tax exemption is going to be the same as far as the men are concerned as well. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not actually about you and me. It's more about 97% of Indian women being in the unorganized sector. And for the few Indian women who get into the organized sector, I think there should be differential, there should be some incentives given on the tax front. But just to come back to our previous speaker, what Mr. Raheja was mentioning, in my understanding, the construction industry represents people who are anyways rich and powerful, and correct me if I'm wrong. But what I'm worried about is really 50% of the population, which is women. And I, initially when I heard the finance minister's budget speech, I was very happy, because he had said that Anganwadi workers and helpers, which is more than 20 lakh population, would now get twice the amount of salary, which has been a long-standing demand. And that actually happened because Anganwadi workers and helpers have now become unionized. But later on, like every budget budget speech, we must also realize that by this time, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we're just responding to what the finance minister says in his budget speech.
Right.
We must also realize that in addition to the budget speech, there are 14 other documents that the finance minister presents to the House of the Parliament.
Right.
And it's only that I think the devil really lies in the details. As you start digging out the figures, as you start putting a denominator and comparing it, as you start adjusting it to the inflation rate, like say, for instance, he said that total expenditure has gone up by 13%, but 10% is the inflation rate. So in effect, it really hasn't been much.
We will talk about inflation and more,
Yeah.
but before that, let's listen in to what the Prime Minister has to say now, reacting to the 2011 budget. Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh said that the Finance Minister has done a good job by planning to reduce the fiscal and the revenue deficit. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
I think this is a budget which matches the challenges that our economy faces. Sustained growth, equitable growth, inclusive growth, plus a determined effort to curb inflationary expectation.
Now, clearly, tax is something that affects both you and me. Let's listen into what really Pranab had to say as far as the exemptions are concerned.
To take us closer to DTC rates, I propose to enhance the exemption limit for the general category of individual taxpayers from 1,60,000 to 1,80,000. For the senior citizens who deserve our special attention, for them I propose to reduce the qualifying age from 65 years to 60 years, to enhance the exemption limit from 2,40,000 to 2,50,000, to create a new category of very senior citizens, 80 years and above, who will be eligible for a higher exemption limit of 5 lakhs.
There you heard Pranab Mukherjee once again. Mr. Ashran, I would like to come to you for one final word as far as today's budget is concerned. Do you think the finance minister has been a responsible minister? Do you think that the country expected a lot from him? Or is it that the country did not expect much from him, so he was in an advantageous position?
I think there were too many expectations, and since it's not an election year, the people thought he will do some bold reforms, which he has kind of resisted from. About the fiscal deficit issue, he's saying that he'll be able to reduce the fiscal deficit. I am very doubtful it will be possible, because the thing is, this year you had CDG auction money, which was kind of helping you to reduce the fiscal deficit. Next year, this money is not going to be there.
Right.
So obviously, your fiscal deficit is unlikely to be what you are expecting it to be. On the real estate side, I think I'll just taking the point from him. If you really see the real estate prices today and the stock prices today, they are again very high. And that is actually a kind of a major issue which needs to be addressed. And that's, I think, one good thing which the budget has tried not to do anything on the giving more incentives to the stock market or the real estate. Because thing is, if you kind of make the bubble bigger, then again, later on you have to pay the price. It's better to kind of keep it smaller now, and that way you can be more sustainable. Point.
So we can still dream of our dream homes now. It's more sustainable.
The thing is, if your real estate goes up too much, if you see Japan and US, that's the crisis.
Right.
I think now we actually, I think, hoping we are learning from that experience.
We can just hope over there. Thanks very much, Mr. Ashra, Mr. Raheja, and also Yamini for joining us this evening and sharing with us your views as far as the budget is concerned. Clearly, as Mr. Ashra pointed out over here, India had big expectations. For some, those expectations were met, and for some not. Now, corporate India clearly has a lot to say and give as far as this budget is concerned. Let's listen in to what corporate India, or rather what India Inc. has to say about it.
Budget, I like stability, and this is stability. Not many changes in taxes. I think it will push investment for more capacities. Yes, there are more incentives on import of components of green vehicles. We'll have to study now how to use that.
No, I think not only is the increase significant, but the fact that it's very balanced and inclusive. It's not only on Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, which is elementary education, but spread across the board, right up to innovation.
Now, the market started on a euphoric note as the finance minister started his budget speech. At one point, the Sensex gained nearly 500 points, crossing the 18,000 mark, but it shed at least half those gains in the course of the day. Now, the Sensex was up from 17,701 at close on previous trade to 18,296 points. It ended at 18,054 points, up by only 122 points. The reduction in the surcharge on corporate tax on domestic firms, the projection of a lower fiscal deficit for financial year ending March 2012, and the thrust on infrastructure development contributed to the buoyant mood on the markets this afternoon. But on that note, we slip into a short break. But before that, let's remind you, regardless of what SOP's Pranab Mukherjee may or may not have brought for you, here at NEWSX, so we, on the big budget day, get you the winners. We're giving away Giordano and Fossil watches, Reebok sunglasses, and a premium suit lens from Donier. All you have to do is call us at 0120-436-9422 with a question for our experts. Or if you spot a mistake or illogical statement from the finance minister, you could share that as well. The best question and the mistake spotter wins a prize. Also, all callers who ask questions of our panel or spot mistakes in the budget can win a bonus prize as well. Just answer this very simple question: who is the only finance minister to present a budget on his birthday? So call us and win big prizes here on NEWSX. Now, up ahead on NEWSX, Arushi Talwar's mother Nupur Talwar filed a supplement. Mild cheer for the taxpayer exemption raised from 1.6 lakh rupees to 1.8 lakh rupees. Pranab Mukherjee tries to play safe, steers away from announcing any major bold reform initiatives, does not offer much relief on the inflation front either.
You can't please all people, and the finance minister has done as good a job as was possible.
Pranab Mukherjee gets a pat on the back from the Prime Minister, says everyone cannot be pleased. With elections around the corner, Finance Minister focuses on the farmer, but there are not much reforms for the Aam Aadmi. Finance Minister's prescription gets a mild thumbs up from the Dalal Street. Sensex closes 127 points up. Hello and a very warm welcome. I'm Srishti Kukreja. You're watching NEWSX, and for a better perspective of the budget, we have with us an esteemed panel today. First of all, joining me live in the NEWSX studios is Mr. Raheja. He's the MD from Raheja Developers. Also joining us is Mr. Arun Kejriwal. He's the director of KRIS Securities. He joins us from our Mumbai studio. And finally, Mr. Harish Bijur. He is the CEO of Harish Bijur Consultants. He joins us from the Hyderabad studios. And before we go across for more on the budget itself, let's take you to the highlights. Before I give you the highlights of the budget, let's check out other top headlines as well. The Supreme Court issues notices to Dow Chemicals and Union Carbide on Centre's plea for more compensation for the victims of the 1984 Bhopal gas tragedy. Talwars allege that the CBI did not carry the inquiry in a proper manner, say there was enough evidence against their servant Krishna and therefore the case must be reopened. King's speech crowned at the Oscars. Both Indians A.R. Rahman and Tariq Anwar miss out on the awards.
Well, Dhoni shouldn't blame the system. The rules are there. He didn't know the rules. And there's a lot of players playing in this tournament all over the world do not read the rules.
Jeffrey boycott blast captain cool Mahendra Singh Dhoni, says Dhoni and the entire Team India should know the rules before showing off their frustration. Now, Budget 2011 has been presented. Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee has tried to strike a balance between political compulsions and pure economic decisions. While some relief on the tax front has been given to the people at the bottom of the tax net bracket, the budget fails to do much for the common man reeling from the impact of high prices. Government seems to have committed to several reforms, most notably in the financial sector. The tax reforms are also set to kick by 2012. The defense spending continues to rise despite the slow pace of arms and weapons acquisition. But most of the other reforms are still promises, and whether they will become reality is anybody's guess. We will discuss the budget threadbare with our esteemed panel present here for this very purpose.
So I had to consider the fiscal consolidation. Therefore, through this budget, I wanted to convey a strong signal towards reforms. And reforms not in dramatic announcement, but addressing those issues where governance and delivery can improve. Taking full advantage of the technological inputs which are available, for instance, IT platform, which can bring revolutionary changes in the tax compliance, tax administration.
There you heard the Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee speaking to the media after the budget session. Let me now go across to Mr. Raheja. Sir, first of all, talking about the tax reforms as well as far as today's budget session is concerned, there's at least some respite, especially for people in the lower bracket.
Yes, that is there, but if we look at the total inflation which has taken place during the last 1 year, that hardly offsets the loss which has been suffered by the common man. So I will say that it's just trying to level up and cover that availability of some liquidity with the common man. But if I look at overall, the budget is focused upon the common man and upon the kisans also.
Right.
So the government has tried to focus upon the another aspect is that is by increasing outlay on the infrastructure sector by 24% almost, or 23% plus. We are trying to make long-term investment for the growth of the country. That is one aspect. The second is for skill development and education. That is also the right chord which has been touched by the government by giving more than 24% increase on that as well. So what is immediately required by the country is to develop infrastructure, and that is the another aspect is to develop manpower and skill development. So these two issues have been nicely addressed in the budget.
Right. Let me now go across to Mr. Bijur from Hyderabad. Mr. Bijur, now many critics say that this is a populist budget and this ahead of the polls that are scheduled in many states. What is your reaction to that? Do you yourself see this as a populist budget?
No, I personally don't think it's a populist budget because there isn't too much in it for too many people. If you really look at it, I'm particularly excited about just the issue of, government governance, which has been focused upon, because we have had a series of scams, we have had a series of issues, and I think that's the tapestry under which this budget is being presented. Public accountability and everything done to ensure governance, public accountability, and the use of technology as an umbrella to cover it all. I think there's a fair degree of investment there. So I'm happy about that. Overall, the budget is, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee has 5 opportunities to present a budget. We need to see each of his budgets as a part of a series. And every budget has a tapestry, a social tapestry, which is the background on which it's presented. The current one is presented on a background of governance. And I think that's the theme of the budget as I see it.
Right. Let me now go across to Mr. Kejriwal in Mumbai. Sir, today's investors had something to smile about this morning as the markets opened on a good note today. Your reaction on that?
Well, yes, it certainly opened on a good note because people hadn't understood the fine print. The market was expecting an increase of excise duty, particularly in the auto sector. And there was a rollback of the SOPs which were given in 2008-9, which was expected, which did not happen. As a result of that rollback not happening, it caught people completely by surprise. The market rallied. We went up on the Sensex close to 560-70 points, and we closed just about 120-25, which clearly means the euphoria which was witnessed at the start was missing at the end of the day. And I think that is what is the important thing. We seem to have missed on a lot of opportunities to use this budget, because let's understand this is only the 3rd year of the government, and they still have time before this government runs out of its 5-year mandate. And This is normally used as the period where the tough reforms or the progress is sort of initiated, which I think we seem to be missing in this budget.
Right. I'll come back to my esteemed panel, but before that, let's listen into how the political fraternity has reacted as far as the general budget is concerned.
In this budget, there is not even a mention of unemployment. That means the finance minister doesn't think that it is a problem. They have not told anything about gauging the inflation. They have not said a word about unemployment. Therefore, this is a very, very disappointing budget for a common man.
Should I have to go to...
The budget is exactly according to the personality of the finance minister. He is not known for being a reformer in the economic field. And that is why he has presented a budget which is completely devoid of reforms.
We're very, very excited about this budget. I think it's an excellent budget which takes care of all the sections of the society. There's a lot, which has been done to improve the health services, a lot to improve for education. I don't think we've had such an quantum leap in education, such an increase in budget for education.
ये जो बजट जो पेश किया है प्रणब बाबू ने, ये हम बहुत हैप्पी हैं, बहुत खुश हैं, लेकिन ज़्यादा खुश उस दिन होंगे जो डिफरेंट काइंड का जो बिल आने वाला है, ये बिल पास होने के बाद ही बजट का जो एस्टीमेट है, जो उपस्थापन हुआ है, तब ये सामने बात स्पष्ट होगी कि हम अपने गोल तक पहुंचते हैं कि नहीं पहुंचते हैं.
At all, there is nothing new in the budget. There is nothing spectacular to celebrate in the budget. In fact, this budget is in tune with the Congress-led UPA government's determination, commitment to build crony capitalism in the country. The budget fails to address the genuine concerns of the common people, Aam Aadmi.
Now, there have been a few changes on the personal tax front as well. The basic exemption limit has been raised to 1.8 lakh rupees a year from a 1.6 lakh rupees last year. Now, there have been some modifications to the exemption for the elderly. Exemption for people above 60 years has been raised to 2.5 lakh rupees from a 2.4 lakh rupees. A new category has been created for people above 80 years. They will be exempted up to 5 lakh rupees per year. Women for the first time in years will have the same exemption as men at 1.8 lakh rupees per year. The new tax brackets are income from 1.8 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees will be taxed at 10%. It's 20% for incomes between 5 and 8 lakh rupees and 30% for incomes above 8 lakh rupees.
To take us closer to DTC rates, I propose to enhance the exemption limit for the general category of individual taxpayers from 1,60,000 to 1,80,000.
Now, so for the Aam Aadmi, the everyday consumer, what comes out of the budget as cheaper and what becomes more expensive? Let's give you a lowdown of that. Looking at it broadly, a host of luxury and non-essential items go up, which include air tickets, big cars, televisions and refrigerators, washing machines, air conditioners and microwaves, and of course, cigarettes as well. And in terms of a price fall, there's a list of electronic goods, food items, and the obvious support in the budget to environmentally friendly wear. Now, prices of small cars and motorcycles, music systems and mobile phones, CNG, kerosene and petrol and diesel, also wind and solar energy and food items are to drop. Now, the cost of insurance also comes down now. Let me now go across to Mr. Bijur. He is joining us from Hyderabad. Now, Mr. Bijur, many critics would say that this was the one chance for the UPA for the government itself to come back into the race. You've been critical of the budget itself. Do you think that they have lost out on this opportunity, or do you think that somewhere there's a lot of respect amongst the people of our nation, considering the budget reforms that have been introduced today?
Well, I would put it this way, that, this is a mid-term budget in a 5-year tenure. And this was certainly an opportunity which could have been used to really look at certain positive measures, maybe some bold measures, whether it comes to, fertilizer subsidy. which is a huge, huge issue. Biting into issues such as that, I haven't seen too much happening. Yes, there have been, wee bits of populism in this budget, which I do see. For instance, the 5,000 crores which goes out as, priority sector lending. We'll have a lot of people clapping their hands. But I have a problem with this because, when you look at priority sector lending, it's being lent out, but the point is what's really happening is the money coming back into the banks has been a big question. Because loan waiver has been a disease within our polity. And the moment you waive one loan, every other loan that's given out is viewed as something that can be taken as a right by individuals who don't want to pay back the loan. And that's a key issue.
Right, Mr. Viju, stay with us. Let me go across to Mr. Raheja. Now, clearly, luxury items, we'll have to think once again before buying them. So your Louis Vuitton suits will have to wait, probably. Your reaction to that?
Well, to the richer people, it hardly makes any difference. They can spare money, and by putting little extra burden on them, it hardly makes any difference to them, because whosoever is to buy the branded items, they'll continue buying that. And the main thing is, the issue was about food inflation, about common man. The budget has rightly addressed those issues.
All right. So clearly the shoes will still come into your wardrobe.
They'll continue.
All right. All right. Thanks very much, Mr. Raheja. Also, Mr. Viju and Mr. Kejriwala for joining us this evening and sharing with us your perspective as far as the budget session is concerned. Clearly for the common man, they're watching very, very closely and looking out as to what really is in store for them. Now, the markets also started on a euphoric note as the finance minister started his budget speech. At one point, the Sensex gained nearly 500 points, crossing the 18,000 mark, but it shed at least half those gains in the course of the day. The Sensex was up from 17,701 at a close on previous trade to 18,296 points. It ended at 18,054 points, up only 122 points. The reduction in the surcharge on corporate tax and on domestic firms, the projection of a lower fiscal deficit for financial year ending March 2012, and the thrust on infrastructure development contributed to the buoyant mood on the markets in the afternoon. Well, on that note, we slip into a short break, but up ahead, we will tell you why Jeffrey Boycott has slammed Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Stay tuned for all that and much more coming up on the other side, only on NEWSX.